Can you believe it? 2022 is almost over. It's definitely been a year. It's had some pretty great video games, some pretty good movies, and some pretty movies. Actually, it gave us a lot of movies, and that's exactly what I'm here to talk about today. Hi, everybody. Anthony here from Awesome Anthony Productions, and today I'm going to give you my top 10 list of the worst movies of 2022. Now, this is my opinion, so don't get all crazy and angry in the comments because I said a movie that you love or I didn't mention a movie that you hate or something. This is just my opinion. I didn't see all the worst movies of the year because I tend to skip movies that I think look pretty shitty, but I definitely still have some to talk about. So let's get right into it. Number 10. Okay, my first movie on this list was a bit of a tough one. I was really tempted to go with Blonde just because of how much that movie exploits Marilyn Monroe. But at the end of the day, I had to go with Men. I expected more from Alex Garland, and for the first two-thirds of this movie, that's what I was getting. I dug the slower pace, the commentary on toxicity with Rory Kinnear playing every single man that Jessie Buckley runs into. I love the slow burn reveal of what happened to her late husband. And I love the climactic scene that plays off like a home invasion thriller. It was pretty tense. But then Alex Garland takes his head and shoves it all the way up his own ass, going off the complete deep end with all these visual metaphors. And I ended up just annoyed and dissatisfied with the complete utter lack of a conclusion in this film. Say what you will about Annihilation and its trippy ass climax, but at least it had an ending. Number 9. I still do not understand the praise behind the new Scream. 3 was a joke, yeah, and 4 gets a little messy towards the end, but Scream 5 had a different problem completely. The acting is great, the scares and gore are strong, but the characters are fucking terrible in this movie. The film basically abandons the original cast and actively shits all over one of them. And aside from Jenna Ortega, all of the new characters are just so unlikable. I couldn't even tell you what any of their names were, and none of them come even close to the screen presence of Sidney Prescott and Gale Weathers. I understand the point of the Scream movies is that you never know who the killer is and the characters should suspect each other, but these characters start pointing fingers and blaming each other from the offset, and it just comes off as completely mean-spirited and kind of unrealistic here. When we get to the reveal and the motivation of the killers and their online radicalism, oh my god, I was so tempted to just shut the movie off at that point. That is such a cliche nowadays, and the way it's handled is laughably stupid. I couldn't believe this film was from the team behind Ready or Not. Number 8. The behind the scenes drama was better than the actual film here. You know what it is, it's Don't Worry Darling. The film is fine enough if a little directionless for the first two-thirds, but once the completely cliche reveal comes, it just turns into a half-baked good for her ending that throws all logic right out the window and ends right before it gets good. Number 7. Pray for the Devil. Another horror movie that commits the sin of being completely boring with a paint-by-numbers plot. I knew where the plot was going within the first 10 minutes and could even tell you exactly where the climax was going to take place. Yet the film was so vanilla and forgettable that I couldn't even tell you the names of the characters. Number 6. Another requel clearly inspired by 2018's Halloween. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like every sequel to the original classic, ignores everything that made that first movie so great and brings us just another boring gore fest where you root more for Leatherface than the f***ing protagonists. It's full of unlikable characters that make dumb decisions left to right, a Leatherface that can basically survive anything, and a complete waste of bringing back the original Sally. I mean, the original actress didn't come back because she died, but they brought back the character of Sally, and they completely wasted that character. So that last scene was pretty damn funny. Number 5. You know this one. It's the movie of all time. Look, there is nothing more that I can say about More Be Us that hasn't been said yet. It's boring. Jared Leto has all of the gravitas and heroism of a plank of wood. The story is derivative and predictable. The characters are all cardboard cutouts, especially the lead and the villain. The effects and CGI are just straight up ugly, and it around with the MCU and the existing timelines so Sony can push their BS, ill-advised Spider-Verse that nobody asked for or wants. Number 4. Fall. There's something to be said for just how much Fall goes off the rails in the last act of the movie, along with how strong the cinematography is on such a low budget, but that still doesn't take away from the fact that this script is absolute garbage, with two completely stupid leads, one of which is an actual villain who constantly makes stupid decisions and puts them both in danger, for no reason. Barring the completely insane twist that at least got me to sit up in my seat towards the end of the movie, Fall is a bore, and when it's not that, it's incredibly frustrating to watch. Number 3. What the f***? Say what you will about Halloween Kills, its clunky script and its dumb characters, but at least it delivers on what you come to a Halloween movie for. Halloween Ends is yet another Hollywood bait and switch that lures audiences in, expecting a last epic final confrontation between Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie and Michael Myers. And it does deliver that, in the last 15 minutes. The other hour and 40 spent on a random dude with no connection whatsoever to the rest of the trilogy or the series, and he makes Michael Myers look like a little bitch in his own movie, stealing his masks and taking over the killing spree, but the movie decides to just scrap that at the last second and give it back to Michael so that him and Laurie can have their final fight. The movie had the opportunity to send out Laurie and Michael on a high note, and all it did was just let the Halloween franchise die on the ground with a whimper. Number 2. Grinch meets Terrifier? This is not. In the mean one, David Howard Thornton's performance definitely brings a lot of life to it, but this is just a shit movie through and through. It looks like the budget was like $100 for this movie. Everything is cheap and ugly, the cast is bad and not believable at all, and the effects and blood are so terrible with their CGI, they look like they came out of the 90s Spawn movie. I really wanted to enjoy this Grinch horror parody, but the mean one ended up being one of the most boring and tedious movie watching experiences of the entire year for me. And only one other film this year made me even more angry and disappointed than this one. What'd you expect? Number 1 is Pinocchio. It's another live-action Disney remake of one of their classics. Need I say more? Pinocchio is just a sad, complete cash grab that copies the original just enough to try for nostalgia points, while completely abandoning the original message, neutering Pinocchio's character arc, and adding just enough filler to the runtime to bump up those streaming numbers since Disney didn't even have faith to put this out in theaters. Plus, pretty much the only practical things in this film are the human actors, and the rest of it is just painfully obvious CGI that falls right into the uncanny valley. It really just comes off as creepy. And the fact that Robert Zemeckis and Tom Hanks were attached to this disaster of a film really just makes me sad and kind of pissed off. So congrats, Disney, you gave us the worst movie of 2022. Good job. Now, before I wrap up the video, here's a few dishonorable mentions. They're movies I didn't really like and was kind of disappointed by, but didn't completely hate. There's Fantastic Beasts: The Secret of Dumbledore, another lazy crash grab from Warner Bros. That basically has no plot or any memorable scenes with any of the characters, and it completely fails in recapturing that Harry Potter magic. Strange World. Beautiful animation and not much else. This Disney flop has no personality, bad writing and characters, and it just ends up being pretty forgettable by the end of the day. Blonde. I know I mentioned this earlier, but this film completely exploits the idea of Marilyn Monroe and just straight up fabricates a bunch of shit that was either rumor or just not true whatsoever to make the movie more dramatic. But in reality, it's just overly long and exploitative. The Munsters. Long, unfunny, and very, very cheap. This shows that sometimes passion projects shouldn't get made. Goodnight Mommy. A near shot-for-shot remake of the original that completely abandons everything that makes it interesting and really dulls the impact of the story and the violence. And the last dishonorable mention is Terrifier 2. Now, don't get me wrong, even though I'm not a torture porn fan, I thought the blood and gore effects were pretty crazy here. And Art the Clown is truly a menacing and kind of darkly hilarious villain. But the terrible writing and community theater acting make this a very tough watch to get through, especially at 2.5 hours. And that's my list of my top 10 worst movies of 2022. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I've really had a great year starting up this channel again. I'm over 500 subscribers, which isn't anything crazy, but that's not what it's about for me. I just love talking about movies, going to see movies, and sharing it with as many people as possible. So thank you for your support, and I'm excited to keep this going in 2023. But yeah, thanks for watching. Please make sure to leave a like if you like this video. Go ahead and comment below. Let me know if you thought I missed any movies or what you thought of my list. And while you're at it, you can subscribe, ring the bell so that you never miss any of my content. You can also click or tap on these cards here. They'll take you to my review of Avatar: The Way of Water, or just over to my channel where you can find my reviews, my shorts, and my old shit. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and I'll see you next week when I give my top 10 best movies of 2022.